Hello again. This is a very short video, and it is really just to express my amazement that nobody in government, or for that matter in Parliament, or in any of the newspapers or broadcasters in this country, ever speak about the real cause of much of Britain's problems. It is, of course, the rapidly growing population, which ensures that no matter how many hospitals, schools, reservoirs, houses or power stations we build, regardless of how many doctors, nurses and teachers we train or hire from abroad, we never seem to have enough and are always in a permanent state of crisis due to one shortage or another of those people or things. The National Health Service is always short of nurses, schools are always running out of places, there are never enough houses for everybody to live in, and we simply cannot supply enough water or electricity to everybody who wants it. We all know that it's not always been like that in Britain. We all know that this permanent emergency began roughly 20 years ago, after Tony Blair's government had decided to let as many foreigners come and live in this country as wished to do so. I have never spoken with any ordinary person who was unable to make the connection between unlimited immigration on the one hand and the collapse in public services and dramatic deterioration in other things which we had previously taken for granted. By ordinary people here, I am of course excluding Guardian readers and left-wing types in general, who react like one of Pavlov's dogs at the very mention of the word immigration and start slavering at the mouth and shouting racist, xenophobe and Little Englander when they receive that particular stimulus. Everybody else, though, gets it, even if they're embarrassed or ashamed of being able to see what is causing so many of their problems. One radical solution would be to place a complete ban on further immigration for at least the next 10 or 20 years, until we have restored the country's infrastructure so that it is able to cope with the number of people living in Britain. Once this was done, then it might be possible to consider how many immigrants we might be able to cope with in the future, and to have an open and honest debate about this. This in itself would be a startling innovation, because there has never been an open debate in this country about immigration, and also about the intention of politicians on the subject. This is anathema to the political class in this country. Remember when the then Prime Minister Gordon Brown was asked by a member of the public why so many Eastern Europeans were coming to live in her area, and trying to explain to him why it was having a bad effect on local services? That was during the general election campaign in 2010. He didn't realise that his microphone was still live as he got into the car afterwards and dismissed her angrily as a bigoted woman. And that sums up how our masters feel about those of us who dare to ask questions about immigration. Of course, a freeze in immigration would require some emergency legislation, but when we remember how quickly the government was able to change the law and rule by decree during the COVID business, I don't think that would be too hard to manage.